Hi, I'm making this short tutorial on how to diagnose and possibly repair a monitor that is having the issue such as the one on the left. It's flickering. This particular screen is a syncmaster by Samsung 226BW model. The reason I'm posting this video is there seems to be a lot of problems with these monitors, and I think it's a real simple fix. I believe it's a capacitor. But if it is the backlight itself, it will not be economical to repair this unit. It would be more cost effective to replace it. So let's get into it and see if we can figure it out. On the syncmaster, there'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws to remove. Remove the base, and there'll be an additional screw underneath the base. Plugs should be removed. Once these plugs here have been removed, there will be one more plug that needs to be removed, and that will be right here. You're going to need to unplug this board from this one. And I believe there's 1, 2, 3 screws that need to be removed. And it looks like a little retaining clip. We have our board here. Here is the alternating current input. This would be the cord that comes from your wall to the unit. This is alternating current coming in. The purpose of this board is to pretty much process alternating current, which comes from the house, and turn it into DC, which is direct current. It uses rectifiers to straighten out the alternating current waveform to a straight DC line. These are transformers. These step down the voltage once they're in DC. And these capacitors here are electrolytic capacitors. And what they do is they store electricity so they can create a situation where the line of electricity and the flow stays in one straight line of supply. Basically, looking this board over, everything looks good, and these 3 capacitors do not look good. They are bulged at the top, if you can see that. They are bulging out at the top, where these are more concave. They're more flat to concave. These look good, these do not. These are the 3 that are in question that will be replaced. If you get a close look at these capacitors, on top they have little relief cuts in them. They're scored, and this is for when the capacitors overheat. They don't actually explode, they break on the weak points, which are score marks, so they don't explode and fly apart. So these 3 capacitors will be replaced. The rest of the board looks good. Okay, now that we have identified these 3 capacitors as being bad, we're going to mark them, and then we're going to disconnect them or desolder them from the board itself. So if you look at where they correspond on the board and then flip it over, you can mark here where each one is attached, and you can see this one corresponds over here, and so on and so on, and this would be our 3rd one over here. You got to pay attention to the polarity on these capacitors when they get soldered and desoldered. This right here, this gray bar, designates the polarity. It is the minus sign obviously is negative. You must follow the polarity and reinstall them in the correct orientation. This is a desoldering tool. All this does is use a vacuum to pull the solder off once it's liquefied. So we're going to go ahead and do these joints. Okay, now we should be free on that particular capacitor. Then on the other two, follow the same way, and let's get these three out of here. And if you'll notice, these legs are kind of bent over on the capacitors. You simply raise them up after you've got them desoldered, and you should be able to then press them through. There it is. Okay, I went ahead and removed the other two caps from the PC board. They wound up being 820 microfarad by 25 volt. There will be two of these replaced, and then the first one we took out is a 330 by 25. Something I'd like to point out real quick, this is a DVOM. It will not properly test a capacitor. It'll only test it for a dead short on continuity side or ohms. These need a separate tester that actually charges them and checks the capacity and output. This is used more in ohm setting for resistance in a circuit and resistors. It will also check line voltages, both AC and DC, and continuity. So I'm going to order these three up and we'll continue. Okay, here are the new capacitors. Here's the old ones. If you'll notice, dimensionally, they are different. The new one is much taller. I knew this when I placed the order, that dimensionally they were different. I wasn't worried about it because it's not a clearance issue, because the height of this heatsink is about as high as that's going to be, so I wasn't worried about a clearance issue. But if you're doing it in a different monitor and installing these parts, you might want to keep the dimensions pretty close to original, even though they're the same spec rating wise. So let's go ahead and throw them on the board and get this done. Okay, we have our board here. As you can see, I've already replaced the 330 by 25. I put it through the board with the correct band facing the negative side, brought it over and bent the legs over to the side. That's the proper way to do that. When you're fitting these, they simply go on the board and they push in like that. You hold them with one finger, you come over to the other side, and you'll go ahead and bend the legs over on them, and then you're pretty much ready to solder them. I'm going to do one more and then I'm going to solder them in there. I'm not going to get too much into detail about soldering. It's pretty much the reverse of how we took them out. It should only take you a few minutes. Just make sure you use flux and the soldering iron isn't too hot. Alright, flat screen is back inside. Power cable's hooked up, interface cable's hooked up to the other computer. Let's turn it on and see what happens. And there you have it. We have one repaired screen. Come over here. There's our three capacitors. And this was a total of $1.90 to repair. These two items, which are total up to three pieces, totaled up to $1.90. So this is a 20-inch high definition flat screen LCD, and I think that's worth $1.90. And had I not turned this into a video, I would have finished this in 15 minutes. Have a nice day and good luck.